Welcome to the Aligned Powerhouse, the podcast for executive women who are done leading from burnout and ready to rise from alignment. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, licensed psychologist, high performance and mindset coach, and guide for high achieving women who are ready to lead, live, and love without abandoning themselves. Here, we unpack the nervous system truths, mindset shifts, and emotional patterns that drive your leadership so you can build power from the inside out. Let's get into it. Alrighty, y'all. Hello. Today, we are addressing a dynamic that is present in almost every relationship that I see where there is a female powerhouse who is present. And when I say that it's present, really what I mean is that it's lurking in the shadows, meaning when clients come in, it's not the first thing that they're leading with. Out of the hundreds of female CEO, founders, creative, executive leadership of women that I have worked with, this is one that they are never leading with. So this is the idea that you, my fellow powerhouse woman, you are not CEO of your marriage. Your partner is not your project or your employee. He is not even your business partner. And now, before you hit skip or this isn't me, I'm not doing this, I want to talk about what it looks like whenever you are operating in this place of control and you're actually managing your partner the same way that you're managing your company or your business. So what I see is that women will manage their partner's emotions in the same way that they're managing a team's reactivity. So if you're operating at the C-suite level, then you are in project management, but with tons of fires, lots of people, and a lot of politics, right? Your job is quite literally management and management under high pressure. Here's the thing. In intimacy, in marriage, in home life, control is going to suffocate your marriage quicker than anything else would. So if you find yourself rehearsing scripts of different ways that you are going to request that a need is met, a complaint that you have of a behavior that you want to see it differently, or perhaps you're watching the way that your partner is interacting with your kids and you notice he's starting to get dysregulated, overwhelmed, confused, frustrated. Now you don't want your kids to feel uncomfortable, but you also don't want your husband to feel uncomfortable. And he starts to give you the eyes like, hey, I need help, right? And you are jumping into action, not out of intentional choice, but more of it's an urge and you just feel yourself pulled into action. Okay. This is what it looks like to manage your partner's emotions. I also see a trend of women coming in who are managing like they're treating their relationship. And guys, okay, my hand is up. I am one of them, but they are tracking progress. Okay, as if they're tracking a KPI. So is he helping enough? Is he communicating enough? Is he communicating the right way? Are we evolving and getting to the next level fast enough? Or the point within which I put on my document here, right? It's this idea that I have in my head of what high power couples look like. And they are tracking it. They are taking data. Guys, these are the women, they come in and they got receipts. Okay. And they're going to pull them up. And I kind of get a little excited about this when I'm working with these women. But what this tells me is they are in a place of managing. Okay. They're not able to receive. There's a lot of control that's present in this relationship. Now, you're also going to feel yourself, because guys, we're still going through a list of behaviors here. Okay. So check. You probably have 2 checks by now. Maybe not. And if not, good for you. Last 2 tend to look like micromanaging. So this is where I see, feedback looks like, yeah, you got this done, but you didn't get it done right. I'll use myself as an example here. I have a very particular way that I think dinner should look and that I think packed lunches should look. And I will lay out the steps for my partner. If I am in an unhealthier place, if I've got stuff inside that I am not dealing with, then I will notice that I start to lay out a menu, not just menu planning and getting us prepped, but it's hey, you're in charge of dinner this night. This is exactly what I want you to make. This is exactly how I want you to do it. Oh, I noticed that you added grapes into our daughter's lunch, and that's great, but I actually want them cut up in this specific way, not the way that you did it, right? It's real passive aggressive. It's very micromanaging versus true delegation, which is the definition of like releasing control. I will also see that women will ask for closeness while creating performance-based connection. Performance-based connection is essentially connection that fits with someone's idea of what it should look like versus connection like here in the moment. Let's hang out when I'm at my best. Let's have a conversation, but like right now I'm way too dysregulated and I'm actually not comfortable going ahead and doing this. Right? True intimacy into me. See is the nitty gritty. Now, am I encouraging you to go have a hard conversation about finances at midnight when everyone's exhausted, we're all regressed? Like, no, absolutely not. Because if you're asking for closeness, then you don't get to control what that looks like. And if you're saying, I want to be close to you, but only within these parameters, only when I look a certain way, when I feel a certain way, and it has to be done in this specific way, then that is a very performance-based version of connection, and it's the opposite, and it's driving away the very thing that you think you're looking for. Now, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for taking the CEO hat off. The ones that I see are the heavy hitters with my client. But before we get into that, I want to talk about how we get here in the first place. So yes, the underlying dynamic that is present with women who are functioning as CEO in their relationships is control. Like, bottom line, this is what it's about. But here's the thing about control, and here's what you need to understand about this woman's profile, okay, is that this is actually based off of a nervous system that was wired to keep this woman safe. Because inside of this woman is a little girl who was taught to take care of everyone around her. Now, everyone's eyes kind of glaze over or they start to cry whenever I say that, right? It either hits or it doesn't. I want to give you an example of what this looks like, okay? Perhaps you have a father who is emotionally unavailable, meaning he doesn't spend tons of one-on-one time with you, or if he does, he's not necessarily asking questions about how you're doing, things like that. But I'll tell you what does get his attention is when you are sitting pretty at the top of the class. Then he is, oh my gosh, tell me more about that. Then he's saying, wow, I love having these conversations with you. I saw how you won that track meet. That was amazing. And you notice that he lights up. He gets really excited. Not only is he giving you attention, but now he's smiling. And typically he's actually not in that good of a mood. He's sitting in front of the TV a whole bunch, right? This is an example of how you are actually taking care of your caregiver with your performance, with your accolades. Another example is the high performer who has parents who actually have a lot of tension in their marriage, but they're not addressing it. So they feel tons of tension in the home because mom and dad are not actively feeling it and taking aligned action to resolve it. Because again, it's not that like tension is never present, but if your caregivers are not dealing with it, then it becomes an issue and it becomes a part of the air that you're breathing. And so every child falls into line and comes up with some sort of job, some sort of way that they are going to stabilize the family system as a whole, right? And so what we'll see is that for this woman who later turns into CEO, who moves into executive leadership and probably does it very young, okay, they are the ones who their way of keeping the peace, of giving the family something to talk about at the dinner table, especially if you notice mom and dad are shooting looks at each other, maybe they're daggers at each other, right? What they are doing is they're saying, hey, I got an A on my paper. Hey, did you notice or did you know that I got the lead in the school play, right? They're showing up. And when this happens, what happens in the nervous system is, say we're all sitting down for dinner at the table, okay? mom and dad, like it's clear there's been some sort of fight, but we're not going to name it. We're not going to talk about it. Your nervous system is the bridge. It's the connection between your mind and your body. So it is what helps you to interpret your environment and decide how you're going to behave. Now, ideally, it's a wave. Ideally, we can ride that discomfort out as it shows up. And it's also built on associations. Okay. So what this means is that like our psyche's job is to keep us psychologically and physically safe. This is why we can swerve a car before we realize what's happening. This is also why you find yourself going into people-pleasing mode if this is like your go-to, right? Before you even really know what you're doing. You're like, yeah, of course I can do that. And 10 minutes later, you're like, why did I say that? Right? Your nervous system is wired to keep you safe. It was taught to do that based on how you stayed in connection with your caregivers growing up. So again, if the way that you stayed in connection, if the way that you got attention from your caregiver growing up was saying, hey, I got an A on the paper, and all of a sudden the room exhales and we all sort of relax a little bit because we have a few more minutes. We have something else to focus on now. Well, I just built the association for safety based on performance. So this is why I'm saying, yes, this dynamic of the female CEO who functions as CEO at home, it is about control. What is happening at that dinner table is that child is, in a sense, attempting to control their environment. And if they get appropriate, meaning the response that they're looking for, then it's working, it's functioning, right? Of course, they are going to copy and paste into adult relationships. We don't become this magical new person simply because we are an adult. You still have the same nervous system. You still have the same neural pathways. You still have the same brain. You still have the same relationship template that you had as a child. And we don't outgrow that until you address it. Okay. Here's the other half of what's happening. So this can all be called a regression. And a regression is basically whenever your psyche gets zapped into the past and all of a sudden you're functioning in the same way that you did as a child based on what you learned was safe. Okay. So here's what happens is you're sitting in this moment, you're sitting across from the dinner table, you see your partner start to have a meltdown or he puts a plate of food in front of you and it's not exactly what you wanted. Now, you never learned how to tolerate distress as a child because you were raised by adults who also didn't know how to tolerate distress. That's why they weren't dealing with it. So this feels like an alarm bell. This feels like danger, danger. You didn't do it the way that I would do it, and therefore this is wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and fix it. So what happens is your teen self comes online, which is very protective. And she uses the same defenses, the same go-to strategy that she was using at 15 years old. Well, now she's going to start to implement the same thing in this current dynamic because it feels the same in her body. It feels the same in your body. Those same neural pathways are starting to light up. Right? I'm watching my partner start to have a meltdown and really struggle with the way that he is trying to parent the children. I can't tolerate seeing someone that I love in discomfort. I'm going to show up and fix it. I'm going to show up and give a critique. I'm going to give some constructive feedback, right? This is how that dynamic starts. Because what you learned at an early age was that being in charge and being in control is what keeps you safe. Your nervous system associates loss of control and vulnerability with risk. And again, you didn't learn how to stay in your body and be able to ride out that wave. So you pop into your head and you avoid it. So what's happening essentially, to summarize this, is that your childhood scripts are running amok in your current relationship. Especially if dad, also sometimes mom, but especially if dad was emotionally unavailable or inconsistent. Now, here's why this is an issue, guys, okay? Because you are building a relationship that feels a lot more like a contract rather than connection. I'm going to say that again. You are building a relationship that feels more like a contract than a connection. Because a contract has stipulations, it has conditions, it has things that say we stay in relationship as long as X, Y, and Z is happening. Versus connection is unconditional, right? True connection says, hey, we get to show up however we are in that moment, and that is acceptable. Doesn't mean you get to behave however you want, but genuine connection in the moment is messy and it's vulnerable. Here's another cost that shows up is that you are exhausted and you are resentful. I don't buy it when women come in and they say, this is just who I am. This is just who I was born to be. I was born to take care of everyone. Guys, this is not care. This is control. And if you look at 3-year-olds, if you look at toddlers, like the way that we actually truly come into this world, they're so uninterested in taking care of other people consistently. It might be something they enjoy, right? My daughter has these moments of mothering and like nurturing, right? Her friends. She wants to play with like the little babies and she wants to pick them up. She also gets bored really quick and she moves on. So it's there. It's a piece of who we are. It's something we can tap into, but we are not born into this world to be in constant service of other people. It's not possible. This is how you burn out. And when you bring that dynamic into your marriage, the place where you're supposed to rest and be filled, you have nothing left. You have nothing left. And oftentimes this is what I see is that people are treating their marriage as if it's at the bottom of their to-do list versus the most precious and beautiful thing that they want to invest in and cherish, even though it's also the thing that whenever we take vows, we say we're going to be there in sickness and in health, right? Forever and ever, blah, 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 whatever else you say. Okay, here's another issue and a thing that shows up is that typically when you do this, when you stay in a place of control, you're never actually being seen. Okay. So you are constantly in a mode of doing things for other people, for your partner, that you feel this disconnection. And that's typically what you call it. You say, we need to work on connection. We need to work on quality time. What your nervous system is actually craving, what you truly want, is to feel seen and held. But the way that you're going about getting it is actually driving disconnection because you're not showing up as yourself. You're showing up as your teenager who can't tolerate being seen because she never experienced that, right? The last thing that shows up in terms of the cost that's associated with this dynamic is that you don't respect how he shows up because you haven't given him space to. I have a line on my website, on my therapy website that everyone always references. And let's see if I can remember it. If you continue to show up as his mother, he will continue to behave like a child, right? And it's so true when you are in this place of parenting, because that's what you're doing when you are controlling an outcome, when you're teaching someone how to do things constantly, you're parenting them. Then you're not actually married to an adult. But then what happens is women get really angry and they say, what do you mean? You need to show up and be a man. But if you do that and you don't do it in the right way, well, now that's not okay either, right? I push back really hard on the clients that I work with on this issue because the reality is if you want someone to show up and be an adult, you need to show up for yourself and get out of the way. You need to allow them to do this in the first place, and you have to be able to tolerate the fact that they're going to do it in a way that is different from you. And if you are in a place of believing that it is your way or the highway, or that you know the only effective and responsible way to do something, then you are regressed because you are one up. And the reality is that there is strength in every approach to something. So here's how I want you to shift this, okay? If you weren't taking notes before, unless you're driving, I want you to pull out a pen and start writing these things down, okay? Because I'm giving you the exact feedback and guidance that I'm giving to my one-on-one clients. So I want you to get honest about who he is reminding you of. So talk through this in the way that a therapist or a coach would, okay? When I see my partner struggling in a moment with dysregulated children, And I am watching how he's starting to get flustered. He's starting to raise his voice. Who is that dysregulation reminding me of? Right? And think about the thoughts that are coming online here. So I'm thinking he's not capable of doing this on his own. I'm thinking he's not doing it right. He's going to hurt someone that I love, right? Like emotionally, he's not going to be able to be present or be perfect for these people that I care for. I'm feeling like he always does this. I'm also feeling like he needs me. And if I don't do it, then he's not going to pay attention to me, right? Get honest about who do all of those traits remind you of. And I'm always going to push you to mom or dad or other major caregiver. Who is this reminding you of? Because again, that's where we get our original template. So if you want sustainable and accelerated healing, moving at a quick pace, we're going back to the beginning. Here's the next thing that I want you to do. Okay, shift number 2 is reparent the part of you that is still looking for a healthy father figure in your partner. Your partner, it is not his job to be your father. I'm going to say that again. It is not your partner's job to be your father. We have an expectation of our parents growing up that is developmentally normal and healthy, but that they are perfect. Okay. 1, this is not possible. 2, this is just a part of the psyche that hopefully you grow and you move through and all the things, right? What happens is that if we have a wound there that we've not been able to appropriately put on our father to say, my father hurt me in this way, and instead we're living in delusion and saying that, no, he was wonderful, he was great, he was fantastic, he was perfect. Well, then what our psyche does is it almost takes a puzzle piece out of our father and it's going to put it on our partner, because typically it's a lot easier to stomach the idea that our partner is imperfect versus the idea that our father is imperfect if psychologically we are emotionally immature, right, or young. And so you need to get really honest that there's a young piece of you that's coming online in these moments that desperately wants your partner to be this perfect person, which is really something that you were wanting from your father in the first place. In that moment, you need to go have a conversation with her. You need to go talk to her about, hey, it wasn't okay what dad did, and your emotions make so much sense, but also we're not in that place anymore. And we are very capable of meeting our own needs. We can make a request, but it's also healthy for us to allow our partner to have their own experience. In fact, it's important to allow our partner to have our own experience. And if we are feeling uncomfortable, let me walk you through how to actually tolerate that tension in your body and let it run through you. Right? Visualize that little girl who is showing up and go get your feet on some grass. Go journal. Go talk to a trusted friend who's going to be able to hold space for you. I want you to show up for her. Even better, guys, because this tends to be a very young piece of you, go play with her, because children, they don't process through words. This is why we have play therapy. Children process through play. So go spend some intentional time with her the way that your dad didn't, or mom or caregiver or whoever. But there's a need here, right? And again, because they are perfectly imperfect, it is an impossible job parenting. So this is not to fault them. This is simply to be honest about how their behavior has impacted you. So go and give yourself that core need of quality time and feeling seen, and watch how your relationship shifts. Third shift is I want you to allow him to show up as he is and not who you want him to be. Get really, really comfortable with allowing this discomfort and see if you can bring some curiosity into the picture. Curiosity is a hallmark sign of a healthy psyche that is present. What does his approach have to show you, right? Or in the case of, he's getting dysregulated, he's struggling in his parenting, or he's getting dysregulated with issues at work, I wonder what he's going to do with that, right? Let him show you. It could be nothing. It could be that he gets his butt into like therapy or coaching, right? All of those things, all of that is data to give you information on who he is. The next shift that I want you to make is develop an actual nervous system that has the tools to deal with the urge of control. This is all about impulse control. Okay, we tend to associate impulse control with shopping or with blurting things out, but for high power women, typically it is fixing. So you need a nervous system that is able to tolerate this urge without actually engaging in this behavior. So first of all, it needs to build awareness that there's an urge that is showing up. And then you need to be able to tolerate it. So we're going to name the sensations that are showing up in your body. I feel tension. I feel my heart rate taking off. And then what am I going to go do? Maybe I'm going to go take myself for a run, right? Maybe I'm going to go walk on my walking pad. Maybe I'm going to go call a friend, go drink some cold water. Maybe I'm going to go do some butterfly tapping. Maybe I am going to go get myself out into the sun. Maybe I'm going to go scream into a pillow. Right? Maybe I'm going to go do some primal screaming. I don't know. But you need to develop the actual nervous system tools that are going to help you tolerate this urge, or you will never be able to stop. The last shift I have for you, friends, is I want you to stop overfunctioning. Sit in this discomfort and let him rise or not. Either way, you will get a very clear picture, not of who you want your partner to be, but of who he actually is. You've got to let him rise or fall based on his own merits. Otherwise, you will consistently remain in relationship with a child. So what I want you to walk away from today's episode is that you can have a marriage that is just as successful as your career, but only if you stop leading and loving from fear, because this is what this is all about. If I don't fix this, this person will not remain. They will not stay because caregiver sure didn't. So why would this person, right? That's an abandonment fear, folks. And again, if you continue to act like his mother, he will continue to act like a child, and you will have no one to be upset with other than yourself, because you are partaking in this dynamic just as much as he is. So friends, take off that CEO hat. Take it off. Take it off and let yourself feel. Stay in your body. Let yourself be loved and let yourself be seen. And don't be afraid to do it messy. Alrighty, friend, that is all for today's episode of the Aligned Powerhouse podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And do me a favor, if this episode resonated, I want you to share it with another powerhouse woman in your life who is ready to lead and love from a place of self-trust. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really does help more women find this work. New episodes drop every week. Until then, lead with self-trust and let yourself be seen.